I'm here with one of Sydney's top chefs, whose places I basically haunt in Sydney. Brent Savage.
Which I'm very grateful for. No, it's good. So basically today we're going to prepare a Marron, and I'm serving it quite simply. And actually all the preparations are quite simple, but super delicious. So we've got a little bit of confit garlic, and we're going to make a dressing we're actually going to dress the cabbage in a little bit of sherry garlic dressing. So I've just had this on a low temperature for about 20 minutes, and we've just softened the garlic really nicely. So what I've done, I've got the garlic and the oil, and I'm just going to basically emulsify that with a little bit of sherry vinegar. So I have some sherry vinegar. It's all about just balancing the flavour, and I think with dressings in particular, it's always about seasoning things really well and getting that balance between sweet, sour and salty. So what I'm really trying to do with the Marron on this occasion is we're just going to set the protein, and I still want it to be fairly raw for this dish. So what I'm going to do is just remove the tail.
So chef,
or the
to
head.
clarify, you get the Marron, you put it in the freezer, which slowly puts it to sleep.
Yes.
And then you boil it in rapidly boiling water.
Yes, yeah. So this we've just done for 1 minute exactly. So the meat will be still quite raw or very raw, but that's deliberate. And we're going to do what we're going to do is slightly warm it through just with the blowtorch. So we're just going to sit that on there, and we're gonna season it and blowtorch it in a second. But first, to do the dish, so I'm just going to roughly cut some cabbage up, not too carefully at all. So what we're doing is just charring the outside and softening the leaves. So they do slightly cook, but they're also half raw. But you're getting the full char sort of flavour from the outside.
So you get that charred flavour, but also the texture and that slight crunch.
Crunch,
what a clever
yeah,
idea.
yeah. It's very.
This is how the thing not to give your kids to do.
So I'm just cooking the Marron a little. So what we're going to do is with that garlic dressing is just dress that cabbage a little bit. And we've got a little bit of seasoning. And what you want to do is just let that sit and soak up that dressing just for a few minutes before we actually serve it. In between, I'd like to make a little dressing, which is made from buttermilk. So I'm just giving this buttermilk a little bit of a whisk just to make sure that it emulsifies, and I've used a little bit of a trick and added a little bit of starch to it just to give it a good consistency, but it's not 100% necessary. So it's just a simple case of dressing. What we've also got is a little bit of pig's face from local, so from the beach this morning. I think the guys went and picked some for us, which is amazing. We use samphire or any sort of salty succulent is fantastic for this. And what I made prior to coming is a little bit of what we call prawn floss. So it's basically derived from a Chinese technique, but it's a dried out prawn which then we've ground up into a powder, and we're just going to sprinkle a little bit of that. And a little bit of seaweed, for a little bit of wakame seaweed, which we've just dried out also.
That is fantastic, Brent Savage. Thank you so much for joining us on the Gourmet Great stage.